Our current highway garage was built in 1973 when the town's population was about 10,000 people. It housed 10 employees, and they maintained about 15 vehicles. That light is brutal. Currently, the town's grown about 2.5 times in size. We now have about 26,000 residents, and the facility houses 27 employees that maintain about 180 vehicles. The equipment includes vehicles, patrol cars, and so on, tractors, loaders, and other equipment. And it's maintained for the police department, the fire department, the public works department, as well as town hall staff vehicles. Now, to put it into some perspective, back in 1973, I had just finished my sophomore year at Merrimack High School. And I graduated weighing 145 pounds, and I had a full head of hair. Today, I went to the dark side 2.5 weeks ago. I'm now 60, and you can see what time does to all structures. So now the facility has some serious safety, code, and structural issues that Kyle Fox will be speaking about during his presentation. During our deliberations, the council felt that building a new facility as well as rehabbing the current facility for $3.3 million was appropriate. In the current facility, there's no separation of workspace from the public space. The employee space, staff, and so on, and the workspace is integrated. There's inadequate equipment storage capabilities. Our equipment maintenance bays are inadequate, and the height of those bays isn't substantial enough to work on all pieces of our equipment. So it has to either be moved outside or sent out for work. We also found that there would be additional cost savings for future years in the longevity of our equipment and so on, because the rehabbing of the current facility will allow us to store a fair amount of equipment indoors and be prepared for storms that we just encountered. When people would come to work, they'd be hitting the road running, so to speak. Lastly, we plan to bond, or asking to bond, the new garage for a 20-year period, with the garage bond payment taking the place of an existing Greens Pond land acquisition bond that will be expiring this coming budget year. The current bond, the cost is $270,000, and it will be replaced with the garage bond, with the first payment being $275,000 and going down each subsequent year after that. This would have a zero effect on the tax rate. So if Kyle would like, he will be able to answer all of your questions, I'm sure, after his presentation, which I'm sure would be quite interested. And I'm asking for your support in the highway garage next month with a ballot. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, we're going to take just a minute. If you guys want to join the audience, we're going to drop the screen so that you can see the presentation here. You can stay, Eileen, if you want. I'm sure you've seen it. All right, can everybody see? Good, okay. Proceed, Carl.
Thank you, Lynn. As Finley said, my name is Kyle Fox. I'm the Public Works Director for the town of Merrimack. With me for the presentation tonight is Lori Barrett, our Operations Manager at the Highway Garage, and Bill Hickey. He's our Senior VP at H.L. Turner Group. They're our consultant for the Highway Garage project. Tonight we're going to take you through the history of the existing facility. We're going to talk about the demographic change in the town of Merrimack over the period that the Highway Garage has existed. We're going to talk about our proposal and what we're going to do with both with the existing building and the new building that we're proposing. We'll talk about project costs and how to fund the project, and we'll have a quick summary, and then we'll open it up for any questions you folks might have. The current facility is over on Turkey Hill Road, kind of near the center of town. It's in a great location for us to respond to all parts of the town. It's a pre-engineered steel frame structure, which means back when it was built, it had very little design. It also means that changing the shape of it is impossible. It's the size it is the size it can be. It was constructed in 1973 to meet the needs of Merrimack as it changed from a road agent form of maintenance to a public works department as it is today. And in the mid-'80s, there was an addition of 2 additional maintenance bays onto the structure. Here's a picture of what the existing facility looks like. To your left is where our personnel and admin folks work. There's 2 levels in the building on that end of the building. A mezzanine that was constructed by the highway personnel there, which gives office space upstairs and downstairs. The middle 2 bays is where our highway division folks do most of their work, and on the right-hand side is our equipment maintenance division. They're the folks who take care of all of the town's rolling stock and other equipment. In 1973, the population of Merrimack was about 10,600 people. Today, it's over 25,000. It's about a 156% increase. In that same time frame, the number of roads in town went from about 109 centerline miles to over 170 centerline miles today. That can be shown graphically over here on the right. It's hard to see, but I encourage everybody on your way out this evening to stop and take a look at our graphic boards over there. The one on the right that Lori's pointing to shows graphically the roads that existed in 1973 when the garage was built, and the pink roads are all the ones that have been added since. And I should point out that's just the public roads that we maintain. Doesn't include the private roads and the state roads. The thing to particularly focus on is just not the length of road, because long straight roads are relatively easy to maintain. It's all of the intersections, the cul-de-sacs, and just the spread of the town. The town has gone from isolated pockets of population to being spread out over most of the area. And in that same vein, the board to the left shows the houses that existed in blue that existed in 1973. And all of the pink spots are all of the houses that have been built since the highway garage was built. Back when the garage was built, again, back in 73, we had about 10 employees manning the whole town. Now we have 27 full-time employees and 4 part-time employees that help us out with fields and other maintenance activities in the summer. We had about 15 pieces of equipment then. We have over 40 just in highway now. And we maintain, through our highway maintenance folks, over 180 pieces of equipment in that garage. That includes the police vehicles, fire vehicles, town hall pool vehicles, and all of our public works vehicles. The current facility, the issues we have, the electrical is out of code. I talked about the mezzanine earlier. That was, like I said, that was built by our own in-house folks, not necessarily to code. There's poor ventilation in the building. I'll show you a picture later on in the presentation to demonstrate that. There's no separation from the work areas to the office areas. That results in diesel fumes and any other welding fumes and the like getting into the office areas. It makes a really poor place to work. There's poor layout. It's not ADA accessible. And it's just too small for the current workforce. There's also inadequate insulation and not enough headroom for vehicle lift to lift vehicles properly. And all of these affect employee and the public safety. I will stress that it's not just a building for us. It's also a building for the public to come in, vendors, contractors, and the like. So there's many folks other than just us in the facility. Now I'm going to talk a little bit about what we're proposing in this project. We're planning to renovate the existing building. We're not tearing it down because it is still useful. As I mentioned at the beginning, it's a steel frame structure. The steel is still in great shape. So what our plan is to totally gut the building and use it primarily for vehicle storage. That will allow us to protect our $4 million fleet from the elements, which will result in longer lifespan of our vehicles. It will also improve the response time during winter storms. Yesterday was a great example. When we left work Monday, we had all the trucks we could fit into the garage, and you'll see a picture of that coming up soon. Most of our fleet is outside. So when we get the call that it's time to plow, the operators have to come in, get the snow off of their truck, get the truck warmed up, take it over to the salt shed or the sand pile, get loaded with material, then they can go out. That can take anywhere from 45 minutes to an hour to accomplish. Having vehicles stored inside, out of the elements, and in a warm place means we can preload all of the trucks. As soon as the guys get into the garage, they can be out on the road. The other thing we would use the existing building for is to wash vehicles. We do that currently in the facility, and because of the high cost of a wash bay, we're proposing to still do that in the old building rather than add that into the new building as well. The estimated renovation cost for the existing building is about $439,000. One of the great parts about the project with the existing building being renovated is we're going to be able to take our heavy equipment, which now costs about $170,000 per unit for our six-wheel dump trucks, and extend our average life of them from 10 years to 12 years. That cycle will save us about $50,000 to $75,000 per year, and that'll be an ongoing forever savings. Here's a picture of what the existing building might look like in the future. If you remember back to the original slide, we had that ugly steel-sided building that kind of an albatross in a residential neighborhood. We're proposing to change the siding of the building to a more residential feel, so it'll fit into the neighborhood much better. The second part of the project is to construct a new building, and I'm going to go talk about the 4 different areas of the new building, one at a time. The first area I'm going to talk about is the administration and office area, and the conference rooms and the entry vestibule. Currently, we have a little over 1,200 square feet in the existing building for this purpose, and we're actually decreasing this in the new building to just over 1,000 square feet. Here's a picture of our administration space. This is where our highway secretary operates. It's a fairly small area with a lot of activity, particularly on days like yesterday. This is where our base radio station is. So all of our foremen operate out of here, as well as Lori when she's helping out with the storms. And so it's quite a busy place and not really set up well for that kind of operation. One thing I'll point out is you see kind of in the center of the top of the picture, there's an air conditioner in the wall. We don't have HVAC in the building, so we resort to making do, and that's one of our ways we make do is we put an air conditioner in an interior wall. Certainly not ideal. This is a stairway that takes you up to the mezzanine where the foreman's office is and the operations manager office is. Obviously not ADA accessible, and you can see that right behind this picture is where the garage bays are, and that illustrates the lack of separation for dust and fumes and the like to get to the office spaces. Here's one of the foreman's offices. We have 2 highway foremen, and again, it's a tight little area. In the picture is another radio that they can communicate with the trucks as they're out on the road. But again, having them separate from the base station downstairs makes it difficult to be cohesive during the storm. Here's a picture. At the end of this, you'll see a picture of the overall floor layout. For this is the administration space as it's proposed in the new building. We've got a conference room, which we don't have now. So when we need to have meetings with contractors or any kind of private meetings, we have to find a space, and it's never very private. Additionally, we'll have an office for the operations manager, an admin area, a vestibule, which we don't have now. So when public or contractors or anyone comes into the building, they're coming into the work area. There could be welding, there could be painting, there could be anything going on. And we have members of the public coming into that space. So this would give the public a space to come into safely to be greeted. Additionally, we have 2 foreman offices for our highway foreman and a third one for our equipment maintenance foreman. Next, I'll move on to the common space. And this is really the biggest difference between the existing building and the proposed one. The new building will have adequate facilities, both male and female, for locker rooms, showers, and toilets, as well as public toilets, a much bigger lunchroom and training room and kitchen area. Currently, we have just over 800 square feet for that, and we're almost doubling that at 1,700 square feet. This is a picture of our training room / lunchroom / rest room. Storms like last night, the guys were in working at 6 a.m. They didn't leave till 3 o'clock this afternoon. At some point, they need to get a little bit of rest. So we have 27 guys trying to fit into this little room. For training, it's inadequate for space. We end up dumping out into the maintenance bays, and it just doesn't provide us the space we need to do the job. This is another common space. This is the highway work area where we do things like rehab picnic tables, make signs, fix our chainsaws, do anything and everything that we might do. You'll notice the blue picnic table in the front is an extra lunchroom table. So in our workspace, we have a lunchroom table because there's not enough room in the training / break room that I just showed you. Right to the left of that table, you see our chainsaws. And behind that, the flammable liquids storage and paints. So, it's really, really a poor environment for folks to work in. Moving further back in the garage, this is our locker room for the 27 folks that work there. You can see they're very small lockers. There's no place to sit. It's basically a space that was available, so that's where the locker room goes. The room just beyond there leads to the outside, and it's cold storage. There's no heat in this locker room area to keep stuff warm. So in the winter, as guys are coming in from the storm, looking to change their shirt or something, it's cold and not very pleasant. I talked about ventilation earlier. This is the only ventilation we have in the highway garage part of the facility. It's a single fan. The picture on the left shows the fan. The picture on the right shows it in relation to the overhead door bay at the back of the building. That's the only ventilation we have. And of course, if we're in there in the winter working on equipment, and you turn that on, you've lost all your heat now. So if you want cleaner air, which it's not sized appropriately to give you clean air, but if you do so, you're losing all of your heat. This is the bathroom for 27 people, 2 urinals and a toilet. We don't have a female bathroom for the crew workers. We do have 2 additional small bathrooms adjacent to the secretary's office and the operations manager's office. But again, we're lacking proper facilities for everybody. What we're proposing is a much bigger training room with an attached kitchen that'll be sized to fit everybody should we want to have a training meeting, lunches, and whatnot. And they could pull out cots and have a couple couches in there to rest during storms like they went through yesterday. Additionally, there'll be men's and women's locker rooms, which will have shower facilities and restroom facilities in them, as well as an additional male and female restroom for public and other staff that's in the building. The third area we'll talk about is the biggest part of the garage, and that's the maintenance bays themselves. That's the area where maintenance and highway shop functions are performed, the maintenance bays where equipment maintenance works on all the equipment, the air compressor room, tire storage, parts and supply storage. Currently we have about 7,500 square feet, and we're bumping that up a little bit to almost 9,400 square feet. Excuse me. I mentioned early on in the presentation about our storm preparedness before a storm. This picture demonstrates how we set up prior to a storm. And what you can see here, we have the loader in the background, the big yellow piece of equipment, and 3 6-wheel dump trucks ready to roll, full of material. And then in the foreground is the sidewalk tractor. That's all we can fit in there, 3 pieces, plus the loader. So as I mentioned, in terms of storm response, we can get 3 trucks out on the road really quickly. The rest have to wait for getting warmed up, getting over to the sand and salt piles, and having the loader load them one by one, which takes a fair amount of time. Additionally, warming the vehicles from a cold start every storm does lessen its lifespan. So keeping the pieces of equipment warm is definitely good for them. They all have block heaters, so that's how we get them going during the cold weather. Here's a view from the top of the staircase that you saw earlier, looking down at our overflow lunch table. Again, the chainsaws are on the left. And again, this is kind of our workspace. In the plan, we're calling this our highway workshop, when you take a look at the overall plan. This is one of the current maintenance bays. This is a 6-wheel dump truck. It's a little difficult to see. On the handouts, it'll be a little easier to see, but up at the front, this truck has a wing plow on it, which all of our heavy trucks do. With the wing plow down in the shop, you can see there's no room for walking past it. So it definitely is, it's a safety issue for trying to step around it or otherwise work in the area. The proposal would widen that gap between each bay by a couple feet to allow for that extra space. This is an example of what happens when we have a piece of equipment we need to work on that's there's not enough height in the existing bays to utilize. We have portable lifts that we drag outside onto a concrete pad, and we work on it outside. Obviously, in the winter, that's more difficult. The new project would have ample headroom space so we could work on everything inside. This is our current parts room. There's no security to the parts room. This is also the break room for the equipment maintenance folks. You can see there's a whole lot going on in that little space as well. And here's a picture of what we're proposing for the new maintenance bay part. The areas in blue are the highway maintenance shop and the highway shop and the maintenance shop. In the maintenance shop, that's where we do all our welding and fabrication, our drill press and that kind of stuff. The grayish areas are storage for tires, parts, fluids, and the like, and some secure storage. And the yellow part is the equipment maintenance bays. And you'll recall from the original picture, currently we have 4 bays, and we're proposing 4 bays in the new garage as well. The final part is the building support, and that's just the janitor closet, mechanical closet, etc. Currently, we have under 200 square feet, and we're proposing to go up to about 600 square feet. Currently, we have our compressors and electrical room as the same room. Our hot water heater is in about a 2.5-foot square closet, not very easy to work on. Our alarm panel is jammed underneath the staircase in the back cold storage room. This is the overall floor plan. And again, I encourage you to check it out on your way out. We've got a proposal board over there that shows the design. Here's some pictures of what the new building could look like. Again, we're proposing a residential siding, so we fit into our neighborhood a little bit better than we do now. The site will be the same. The building in the middle is the existing facility. The new building would be in the backyard, and the other big square building there is our salt shed. The proposed cost of the project is about $3.2 million, and we'll be seeking a $3.3 million bond. That gives us a little room for the cost of goods going up from today's cost estimate to the time the project actually bids. As Finley mentioned, we're seeking a 20-year bond at an estimated 3.25% interest rate, which would result in an initial payment, you can see in the top left of the screen, of about $275,000 the first year, and going down to $170,000 in the final year of the bond. That figure matches in nicely with the expiring Greens Pond bond, which, as was mentioned, is expiring this year. The final payment on that bond is $270,000. The net result of that is the tax rate for the final payment of the Greens Pond bond is 8 cents. The tax rate for the initial payment on the garage would be 8 cents, which would slide into the slot vacated by the Greens Pond bond. Just a quick summary. The existing garage doesn't meet current codes. It's too small. Merrimack's population has grown tremendously in the past 43 years. The employees working out of the garage to meet the needs of the extra people have gone up accordingly, as have the number of roads and length of roads we have to maintain. Expansion of the existing is too costly due to the design of the building. We can get quicker storm response time with the proposal. The life cycle of our heavy equipment can increase by a fair amount. We're projecting savings of up to $75,000 a year by doing so. And the most important point is it provides a safe environment for employees and the public who come into the facility. And with that, I'll open it up to any questions.
Thanks, Kyle. All right, let's get lights on and screen up and see where we go from here. Ladies and gentlemen, is there anyone else who has questions or would like to speak to Article 2 relative to the bonding of the new highway garage? Stan?
Stan Heinrich, 8 Edgewood Ave. My first question is, what is the time frame for doing this construction project, and how are you going to proceed? Are you going to rip out the existing building and do that first? Are you going to do the new building first, or are you going to do it all at the same time?
We got somebody on the board, or are you going to defer to Kyle? Kyle? Okay.
Thank you. Sorry about that. Thank you for the question, Stan.
Kyle, do you have a mic there? You do, okay, thank you.
The way we would progress is we would begin on design right away should the bond pass, and we would utilize the design bid build approach, and so we'd get the design ready. We would hope to be able to put it out to bid sometime late summer, early fall, and if all goes well, we could begin construction as early as pre-winter here. If we went on that schedule, we'd look to get the foundation of the new building in before winter. Should we not be able to go that quickly due to permitting or whatever else may come up, we would look to begin construction the following spring. The order of the construction would be we'd have to do the new building first, and then once the new building was in place, we could relocate our current staff to the new building, then do the renovation of the old building.
And how much time total for all that construction?
We think it could be done in one construction season. So by fall of 2018, we expect everything would be ready to go.
I think you've done your homework. It's a good project, and the building needs to be rehabbed, and you need more space. And I, for one, will support this with great enthusiasm. It's about time we get a new building
Thank you,
for
Stan.
all that equipment.
Pete?
Peter Albert, 40 Level Street. I'm here to address it. I support this article, and I base my opinion on the fact that I just recently retired from the PD after 32 years. And one of my responsibilities over there was at the PD was our fleet maintenance, and I had a chance to spend a lot of time over at the DPW building and shed. And I watched the working conditions as they try and maintain the police and fire vehicles as well as their own. And I can attest to everything that Kyle has said here. And I believe that this is an important piece of infrastructure. We worry about our bridges. We worry about our roads. I think this is an important piece of infrastructure that supports those items, the buildings and roads. So I'd ask any other voters to support this article. Thank you.
Thanks, Pete. Anyone else? Name and address, please.
Amanda Heidberger, 6 Thornton Road West. It sounds like a really great plan. My question is, obviously this last was built 40 years ago. Are your plans, do they look ahead to the future? Is this going to be adequate for future growth? Or are we going to be back here in 10, 20 years wanting to expand again?
Go ahead, Kyle.
We believe this will meet our needs for the long term. Merrimack is, although not completely built out, is far more built out than it was in 1973. So we don't anticipate the extent of growth that we saw the last 40 years.
Okay, so this looks like it'll be a long-lasting. Okay.
Absolutely.
All right,
Thank you. Anyone else? Seeing none, Article 2 will move forward to the ballot as printed. Kyle, you're off the hook.
Good job.